There are moments in life when everything feels like it is falling apart at the exact time you were praying for things to come together. You ask Allah for ease, but suddenly the road becomes harder. You ask Allah for clarity, but everything becomes uncertain. You ask Allah to open doors, yet the very doors you were knocking on begin to close in front of you. And in those moments, Shaitan whispers to you that Allah has abandoned you, but the believer learns something powerful. Not every difficulty is a sign that Allah is pushing you away. Sometimes the hardship itself is proof that Allah is moving you forward, because growth in the sight of Allah is never superficial. Allah does not just change your situation, He changes you, and sometimes, before Allah elevates your position, He strengthens your heart. Before He gives you what you are asking for, He prepares you to carry it, and preparation is rarely comfortable. Look at the stories of the prophets. Yusuf Arabic, Tain Arabic, Lam Arabic, Yet Arabic, Ha Arabic, Alif Arabic, Lam Arabic, Sin Arabic, Lam Arabic, Alif Arabic. Mim was thrown into a well before he reached the palace. Musa Arabic, Tain Arabic, Lam Arabic, Yet Arabic, Ha Arabic, Alif Arabic, Lam Arabic, Sin Arabic, Lam Arabic, Alif Arabic. Mim stood trapped between the sea and the army of Pharaoh before Allah opened the path. Maryam Arabic, Tain Arabic, Lam Arabic, Yet Arabic, Ha Arabic, Alif Arabic, Alif Arabic, Lam Arabic, Sin Arabic, Lam Arabic, Alif Arabic. Mim experienced isolation and pain before witnessing one of the greatest miracles in history. The road to Allah's blessings was never free from struggle. The struggle itself was part of the blessing. Sometimes Allah allows you to lose people because they can no longer go where He is taking you. Sometimes Allah delays an opportunity because your soul is not ready yet. Sometimes He removes your dependence on creation so your heart can learn complete dependence on Him. And while you are crying over what left your life, Allah is protecting your future from things you cannot yet see. We often think progress means comfort. We think moving forward means everything should immediately become easier. But Allah teaches us that true elevation often begins with purification, and purification hurts. When Allah wants better for you, He starts removing what is weakening your connection to Him. He starts exposing distractions, unhealthy attachments, arrogance, impatience, and reliance on dunya. Not because He hates you, but because He loves you too much to leave you spiritually stagnant. And this is why some of the hardest seasons of your life may actually be the moments Allah is closest to you. Because pain has a way of waking up the heart. Hardship has a way of forcing sincerity out of us. There are du'as you make in sujood during difficult nights that you would never have made during easy days. There is a softness that enters the heart after suffering that comfort alone could never create. Allah sees the version of you that you cannot yet see yourself becoming. You see the confusion, but Allah sees the transformation. You see the delay, but Allah sees the timing. You see the closed door, but Allah sees the danger behind it. And one day, when Allah finally places you where you were meant to be, you will realize that every difficult moment had a purpose attached to it. So when life becomes heavy, do not immediately assume Allah is punishing you. Ask yourself whether Allah is preparing you. Ask yourself whether this test is actually teaching you to detach from dunya and attach yourself more deeply to Him. Because sometimes the very thing breaking your heart is the thing Allah is using to save your soul. And that is the moment you realize Allah was never destroying you. He was moving you forward. There comes a point in every believer's life where Allah places them in a situation where logic alone can no longer carry them. The plan you carefully built no longer makes sense. The path ahead becomes unclear. The answers you were waiting for do not come when you expected them. And suddenly, you are standing between what you can control and what only Allah can handle. That is where trust begins. Because trusting Allah is easy when life is predictable, it is easy to say, I trust Allah, when everything is working out according to your timeline. But real tawakkul is revealed when the doors remain closed, when the waiting becomes painful, and when you still choose to believe that Allah is writing something good for you. And this is one of the hardest lessons for the human heart. We want certainty before we move. We want every detail explained before we take the next step. We want guarantees about the future, but Allah does not always show you the entire staircase. Sometimes He only gives you enough light for the next step. And He asks you to walk anyway. Think about Ibrahim Arabic, Tain Arabic, Lam Arabic, Yet Arabic, Ha Arabic, Alif Arabic, Lam Arabic, Sin Arabic, Lam Arabic, Alif Arabic, Mim, as he was commanded to leave Hajar and Ismail in the middle of the desert. No city, no people, no visible future. From a worldly perspective, it made no sense. But the heart connected to Allah understands something the world cannot understand. When Allah commands something, there is wisdom even if you cannot yet see it. Hajar ran between Safa and Marwa, searching desperately for water, not knowing that Allah would cause Zamzam to flow beneath the feet of her child. Imagine that moment. Relief did not come from where she expected, and that is often how Allah works in our lives. We become obsessed with one specific outcome, one specific person, one specific opportunity, while Allah already has provision prepared from a direction we never imagined. The believer learns to stop worshipping outcomes and starts worshipping Allah. There is a difference. Sometimes we are attached to our plans more than we are attached to Allah's wisdom. We tell ourselves that we trust Him, but deep down, we only feel calm when things happen the way we wanted. Yet true trust means believing that if Allah changes the direction of your life, His plan is still better than yours. And trust does not mean you never feel fear. Musa Arabic, Tain Arabic, Lam Arabic, Yet Arabic, Ha Arabic, Alif Arabic, Lam Arabic, Sin Arabic, Lam Arabic, Alif Arabic. Mim felt fear standing at the sea while Pharaoh approached from behind. The companions felt fear in the cave during Hira. Maryam Arabic, Tain Arabic, Lam Arabic, Yet Arabic, Ha Arabic, Alif Arabic, Lam Arabic, Sin Arabic, Lam Arabic, Alif Arabic. Mim felt fear and loneliness beneath the palm tree. But trust means your fear never becomes bigger than your faith in Allah. Sometimes Allah moves you forward by removing your ability to rely on anything except Him. Your money cannot fix it, your connections cannot solve it, your own strength becomes insufficient. And in that helplessness, you finally understand what it means to say Hasbun Allah, Huwa Ni'mal Wakil. Allah is sufficient for us, and He is the best disposer of affairs. And perhaps one of the greatest tragedies is that many people quit too early. They walk away from the path while Allah's help is already on its way. They assume the silence means abandonment when Allah may simply be teaching them patience before the answer arrives. Remember Yusuf Arabic, Tain Arabic, Lam Arabic, Yet Arabic, Ha Arabic, Alif Arabic, Lam Arabic, Sin Arabic, Lam Arabic, Alif Arabic. Mim spent years in prison before the doors opened, but when Allah's decree came, it came in a way no human being could have planned. Allah's timing is not slow. Allah's timing is perfect. Every delay carries wisdom. Every unanswered question carries purpose. Every moment of uncertainty is an opportunity for your heart to lean more deeply into Allah. And sometimes the greatest sign that Allah is moving you forward is that He is teaching you to trust Him even when you cannot see where the road is leading. Because the strongest hearts are not the ones that always know the future. They are the ones that know Allah is already there. One of the most difficult things for the human heart to accept is that not every loss is a punishment. Sometimes Allah removes things from your life because they are no longer part of where He is taking you. But we become so attached to what is familiar that we confuse comfort with purpose. We hold on tightly to people, routines, opportunities, and dreams, believing that if they disappear, somehow our future disappears with them. Yet Allah, in His mercy, sees what we cannot see. There are moments when Allah closes a door that you begged Him to open. And at first, it hurts, it confuses you, you replay the situation in your mind over and over again. Why didn't it work out? Why did they leave? Why did this opportunity disappear? And sometimes the pain is not only from the loss itself, but from the expectations you built around it. You had already imagined the future. You had already attached your happiness to that outcome. But Allah knows when something no longer fits your purpose. And perhaps what hurts the most is that Allah does not always explain himself immediately. Sometimes the wisdom behind the closed door only becomes visible years later. Yusuf Arabic, Tain Arabic, Clam Arabic, Yet Arabic, Ha Arabic, Alif Arabic, Clam Arabic, Sin Arabic, Clam Arabic, Alif Arabic. Mim could not see the palace while he sat in the darkness of the well. Musa Arabic, Tain Arabic, Clam Arabic, Yet Arabic, Ha Arabic, Alif Arabic, Clam Arabic, Sin Arabic, Clam Arabic, Alif Arabic. Mim could not understand why Allah was guiding him away from Egypt before eventually bringing him back as a prophet. The companions could not fully understand the Treaty of Hudaybiyah when it was signed, yet Allah called it a clear victory. Subhan Allah, how many times have we cried over things that later turned out to be protection? How many times have we chased something that would have damaged our hearts had Allah allowed us to keep it? There are people you miss today who, had they stayed, might have pulled you away from Allah tomorrow. There are opportunities you lost that could have destroyed your peace, your sincerity, or even your akhirah. Allah's mercy does not always arrive in the form of receiving. Sometimes it arrives in the form of removal. And growth is uncomfortable because Allah is stretching you beyond the version of yourself you have become used to. We often pray for elevation, but elevation requires change, and change requires detachment. Allah cannot move you toward your next chapter while you are still clinging to everything from the previous one. Sometimes Allah removes your dependence on people so you can learn dependence on Him. Sometimes He breaks your attachment to dunya so your heart can rediscover akhirah. Sometimes He allows disappointment to enter your life, because disappointment in creation can become the doorway to deeper trust in the Creator. And this is why some people remain spiritually stuck for years, not because Allah abandoned them, but because they refused to let go of what Allah was asking them to leave behind. They continue chasing what already ended. They continue grieving what Allah already removed. Meanwhile, Allah is calling them towards something greater, but their hearts are too occupied with the past to recognize it. There is wisdom in divine redirection. When Allah pushes you away from something, it is not because He wants emptiness for you. Allah does not take without purpose. Every removal creates space for something else. Sometimes Allah removes distractions to make room for clarity. Sometimes He removes arrogance to make room for humility. Sometimes He removes temporary things because He wants your heart attached to something eternal. And perhaps one of the greatest acts of faith is accepting that Allah knows what belongs in your life better than you do. That takes humility, it takes surrender, because the nafs wants control. The nafs wants immediate understanding. But Iman says, even if I do not understand now, I trust the one who does. One day, you will look back at certain endings and thank Allah they happened. You will realize that what felt like rejection was actually redirection. What felt like loss was protection. What felt like the breaking of your plans was actually the beginning of Allah's plan. Because sometimes Allah removes what no longer fits your purpose, so He can make room for the person you are meant to become. One of the greatest tricks of Shaitan is convincing people that their efforts do not matter because they cannot yet see the results. You make dua for years and still wait for the answer. You struggle to stay consistent in your salah while battling exhaustion and distractions. You try to become better, to leave sins behind, to heal, to grow, and yet sometimes it feels like you are moving so slowly that you begin to question whether you are moving at all. But Allah never measures your journey the way people measure success. People look at visible results. Allah looks at sincerity, people look at speed. Allah looks at perseverance. People celebrate what is seen publicly, while Allah treasures the private battles nobody else knows about. And this is why some of the most beloved people to Allah are those whose efforts were never recognized by the world. When Allah is moving you forward, progress is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is quiet. Sometimes it is simply the fact that you got up again after wanting to give up. Sometimes it is the silent tears you wipe away before raising your hands in dua one more time. Sometimes it is resisting a sin that nobody would have known you committed. Sometimes it is surviving a difficult season without losing your connection to Allah, and never underestimate those small moments. Because the Prophet ﷺ taught us that the most beloved deeds to Allah are the consistent ones, even if they are small. Why? Because consistency reflects sincerity. Anyone can worship Allah intensely during emotional moments. But continuing to walk toward Allah through exhaustion, disappointment, and uncertainty, that is where real faith is built. There are people who stop moving because they expected instant transformation. They thought healing would happen overnight. They thought closeness to Allah would erase every struggle immediately. But Allah did not create growth that way. Even revelation itself came gradually. The Quran was revealed over years, strengthening hearts little by little. Why? Because human beings are not transformed in a single moment. Allah nurtures the believer step by step. And perhaps this is what many of us forget when we become frustrated with ourselves. We focus so much on how far we still have to go that we fail to notice how far Allah has already brought us. The person you are today may already be someone your past self once prayed to become. The strength you now carry may have been born from prayers whispered through nights of pain that nobody else ever saw. Allah sees every effort, every prayer you forced yourself to stand for when your heart felt heavy, every temptation you walked away from for His sake, every act of patience when you wanted to break, every moment you chose halal over haram, forgiveness over revenge, sincerity over showing off. Nothing is lost with Allah, and subhan Allah, one of the beautiful things about Allah is that He rewards even the struggle itself. Sometimes you may not even complete the goal you envisioned, but Allah still rewards the sincerity of your striving. Because Allah is not waiting for perfection from you. He wants your effort, your repentance, your return to Him again and again. This is why the believer keeps moving, even slowly, because they understand that standing still spiritually is more dangerous than struggling while progressing. A slow step toward Allah is still a step toward Allah, and Allah loves those who continue walking to Him despite their weakness. Do not let your mistakes convince you that your journey is over. Do not let delays make you think your du'as are ignored. And do not compare your timeline to anyone else's. Some people bloom early, others bloom later, but every soul has its own path written by Allah with perfect wisdom. Your responsibility is not to control the outcome. Your responsibility is to keep turning back to Allah with sincerity and hope. Because when Allah is moving you forward, even your slowest steps are bringing you closer to where you were always meant to be.